So what is a typical day like for you working as an actress, like when you're acting in Star Trek, right? Because from what I read in interviews, you guys have to wake up like crazy hours in the morning and you're done way past sunset.
Yes,
What
very
is it
much.
like?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it always depends on the character. So
Mm.
as you know, I played two
Yeah,
characters.
yeah,
So those days were slightly different. So my first character, Ariam,
yeah.
I was in prosthetics, which I'm sure we'll
Yes,
talk about too at some
yes,
point.
yes.
Um, that was very different for
Mm,
me.
mm,
And season one, especially the first few
mm.
episodes, they were still learning how to put on the prosthetics. So when we started that process, it took almost 5 hours just to put it on before we started filming.
Wow. Okay.
So that was a bit of a unique thing. They
Right.
ended up getting it down to like 2.5, 3 hours by the end
Mm,
of season one,
mm,
but it took some time. So I remember my very first day.
mm.
I remember my very
Yeah,
first day on Star
yeah,
Trek.
yeah.
My call time
Mm.
was 2:30 in the morning
Oh,
to start
wow.
filming at 7.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
from 2:30 to 7, I
Yeah.
would be in makeup.
Right.
And then 7 a.m., you go, you do your blocking. So you go
Mm-hmm.
to set with the cast, you do the
Mm-hmm.
blocking. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Block out the
Yeah.
scene. Cameras there, the crew comes in, everybody starts setting up.
Yeah.
After that, you go back to hair and makeup, get your final touches, get
Mm,
changed.
mm.
Then you go film.
Yeah.
So then you're filming, and truly it does depend on the day.
Mm,
Um, by season 4 of Star Trek, we were filming 13-hour days. So we
mm-hmm.
could film for 13 hours, 12 hours plus
Mm,
1 hour of lunch.
mm-hmm.
But then you'd have, again, 2 to 3 hours before that for hair
Mm.
and makeup,
Yeah.
and sometimes up to an hour after that to get
Yeah.
out of hair and makeup.
Yeah.
So we're pulling 15, 16-hour days. Um, which, yes, when you talk about it, it sounds wild. Do you
It's
know what I mean?
crazy.
Like it's
It's
like
crazy. It's
15-hour
crazy.
days
Right.
is like the average. Yeah.
Right. I've read interviews, I've watched interviews of actors who play like the Klingons and whatever not,
Hmm.
right? You're talking about hours just getting ready. And just now in your case, you start at 2:30 a.m. and you're sitting there to be made up until 7. So during that time, are you like struggling to keep yourself awake or actually do you like fall asleep at the couch while they
That's a great question. So that definitely depends on each person. For me, no, once I'm up, I'm up. I
Mhm,
can't fall asleep. But was I always, chatty, and were we
mhm,
always like super animated and, awake?
mhm.
No,
I
I was
don't think
definitely more in
so.
a meditative
Yeah,
state.
yeah, yeah,
Um, But the thing is, especially with the Klingons
yeah,
and with Arium,
yeah,
so once we have that on, we can't eat solid food.
yeah.
So with the Klingons, with me, we'd have nutritionist with smoothies and stuff like that. So
Oh,
the
okay.
the first little bit, like
Mm,
while they were prepping things, I was
mm.
also like eating my last bit of solid food
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I could
yeah.
get in for the
Right.
day. But no, it ended up, I mean, I'm a very meditative person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So it
mm-hmm.
just it was just a natural place for me
Yeah.
to kind of zone out and let the experts do their incredible work.
When you are actively filming a season, and I do know that to film a whole season, the time is very compacted. The day that you described just now, starting at 2:30 a.m. and working 15 hour, and by the time you're done, what time does your day usually end after you remove your makeup? By the time
Yeah,
you
so
walk out with all clean.
yeah. So again, Arium and Nelson slightly different, but with
Yeah.
Arium it was there'd be many a day that I was pulling over 20 hours. And so what ends up happening is, so Mondays, we'd always start at 7 a.m.,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
Film whatever,
mm-hmm,
13, 14, 15 hours plus my prep time.
mm-hmm.
And then there's something called turnaround.
Yeah.
So for turnaround, you have to give actors a certain amount of time, depending on the actor, depending on the contract.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is Mondays we start at 7.
Yeah.
But by the time we get to Friday, because of all those turnarounds, it's
Yeah.
not like we start at 7 every day. So by
Right.
Fridays, we would start filming at 5 p.m. and go till 7 a.m. Saturday. So those are
Right.
called Fraturdays. We call those Fraturdays. So
Okay.
it's like you go
Okay.
and then
Okay.
you wrap up around,
Right.
6, 7, 8 a.m. Saturday.
Right.
And then you have all day Saturday off, all day Sunday off, and you're back at it at 7 a.m. on Monday.
Right. Am I right in surmising that from the time that you walk out from the trailer and head home to the time that you check in again, there's actually a fixed minimum number of hours in between that is your mandatory downtime. Because I can't see how
Yes.
it is humanly possible for you to do these 20-hour blocks for 2 weeks straight, 3 weeks straight.
So we have contractually, like, I don't know exactly what it is, forgive me, but it's like, let's say 8 hours,
Mm.
8 or 10 hours in between. However, they can go into that time if
Mm.
they pay a fine or if they pay a
Right,
fee.
right.
So sometimes a production will do that a couple times
Mm.
if it's only one actor or two actors and it keeps the rest of the people from going till 7 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And so you hit both. So
Mm.
yes, there were some times where it was like, I'm working 20 hours, I'm only
Mm.
home for 6, and then I'm back. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like
Yeah.
they can do that, but it's not like they did that every single
Mm.
time. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
But they can go into what is called your turnaround time.
These are the sides of your profession that regular people don't get to see or
Yeah.
appreciate. There's actually a lot of sacrifices that you put in to get that show on the road, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it's a really interesting thing because yes, it looks very glamorous. No matter
Mm.
what it is from the
Mm.
outside, it looks like a
Mm.
very glamorous life. And please don't get me wrong, it is to a point. Of
Yeah,
course it is. You know,
yeah.
you do red carpets and I get to sit in hair and makeup every single morning. And like
Yeah.
that for me is like a very meditative space. But yeah, the hours are really long. They're
Mm-hmm.
not like that always. Did I have some days that were only 8 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Did I
Mm.
work on other projects where I was only there for 11, 12 hours a day? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But being an actor is a really interesting thing because
Yeah.
you need a certain type of stamina and endurance,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
There's also the other flip side of it that's like, get ready and wait. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're ready, you're there, you're ready for your performance, you're ready to do this, and then they're having a technical issue and now you have
Mm-hmm.
to wait an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
like, how do you maintain that momentum
Mm-hmm.
of like, I'm ready to perform, and then suddenly they're like, okay, go after you've been sitting for an hour. You know what I mean? Like it's an
Yes.
interesting type of endurance that I don't think a lot of people understand or realize is
Yeah.
going on.
It's not for the faint-hearted. I can sort of imagine it. Even by imagining it, I sort of like feel that, hey, this is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
is not